Nelson, how are you?
Doing good, Cherie. Happy
Ah,
to be here. So honored.
I'm honored because, as you know, we've known each other for a few years now, and
Oh yeah.
I just enjoyed watching your journey. I really have. And so, thank you for joining us on Diaspora Food Stories today.
Oh, thank you. I'm so honored to be here, and thank you for your constant support, your friendship. You really put me on the map. That first story you wrote about me really told my story like in depth, and people were connected. So I really appreciate you.
Awesome. My pleasure. But for those who don't know Nelson, Chef Nelson, let's take it way back to New York. Washington Heights is the place. Tell us about that.
That's right. That's right. The Heights. If people aren't familiar with the Heights, if you saw the movie In the Heights, that's my old neighborhood. So it's a beautiful neighborhood, just full of life, full of music. People just living life to the fullest, right? Even it's considered a hood or ghetto, it was always about kind of the community.
Mhm,
That sense of community is really special.
mhm,
Um, I just remember like walking down the street, smelling pollo guisado and empanadas being made from the
mhm.
windows. The grandmas listening to music while they're cooking. People playing dominoes in the streets, and just like just living life.
Those are the
Um,
good old days.
oh yeah, oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And Washington Heights is still rocking. There's definitely a lot of gentrification happening, but
Mhm.
people still there who've been there for years, still really pushing the culture and keeping things really fun in that area. Um,
Wonderful.
so I'm excited to be going. I'm gonna be going in a couple weeks, going back
Okay.
home. Yeah,
Awesome. Awesome. So
visiting
proud
grandma.
Dominican family. Proud
Yes.
Dominican family. Tell us about those memories growing up.
Those memories are amazing. And I always look back every day. I try to reflect as much as I can. Try to think about the best memories, just being around family, with good food and just talking life. Um, just growing up and really learning how to be a human being, how to be somebody who's considerate to others and is always thinking about big picture and always building community. You know me, I'm all about community. That's my
Right.
thing.
Absolutely.
Um, I came in, and it's cool because I came here, especially to Oakland from New York, with such big ambition. As New Yorkers, we think very big, right? Sometimes too big, and that's a testament to Washington Heights because a lot of us didn't have much growing up. So it was always about living and getting to that big American dream and trying to make as much as you can for your family, for your neighborhood, for your community, for the culture. And that's how we think out there. But coming to Oakland, it was that sense of I felt that sense of community that I had there in Washington Heights because that was special to me, and
Wonderful.
everything around Washington Heights is always about you got to make as much money as you can. You work so
Mm,
many hours. Who can work the best? You're a small fish in a big pond or big sea, and you're just trying to make it. Um, but when you step back into the heights, it's like you're humbled,
right.
which is really special. And I feel that especially here in Oakland. It was very humbled of not coming in thinking too big, especially opening my first business, which we'll
Hmm.
talk more about. But it's just like humbling yourself and really thinking about the community first before you think about yourself.
Wow. And who are those influencers that really around food that sort of help you start your food journey into becoming a professional chef?
I gotta say, it, thinking about it now, I always say my mom, grandma, and aunt. Right?
Mhm.
If a lot of people saw what happened with Levi's recently, they created a custom jacket for me, a trucker jacket that's really special, and it tells my story. And in the back of it, there's these hands over mine, and it's my mom, grandma, and aunt.
Wow. That gives
It's
me
crazy.
chills.
It really does because I realized it was last year, last Thanksgiving. We're all together in Florida. My mom lives in Florida now, and I was cooking finally. Like it was a day after Thanksgiving. I wanted to cook for my family, and we took a picture, and we finally realized like this is the first time we're all together with me cooking. Like
Wow.
this first time really cooking for everyone who's really influenced me,
Mhm,
in being a man, being a chef.
mhm.
It was really special, and the jacket represents that. It shows their hands over mine while I'm plating a dish. I made a seafood boil for them, So I
Nice.
brought like alaMar to my family,
Wow.
and that was a really special moment, and I'll never forget that. And that's when I realized like these are the people who really influence who I am now and the way I cook now. You
Mhm.
know, instead
Mhm.
of like the first time, it was always about idolizing the best chefs in the world, mostly the French chefs who are doing fine dining and going that route, which is cool, it's special, but it didn't really make me happy.
Right.
It was a dream that I was chasing just to kind of win the awards and be best chef, which is still the ambition. Of course, you have to have that chip on your shoulder,
Mhm.
especially as a Black Latino chef.
Right.
Now that we're trying to change the narrative about having more color in that realm and really showcasing different cuisines, and not just pigeonhole to what's the stereotype, which is to be
Right.
top chef and cook fine dining has to be Italian, French, or Spanish. Now it's like branching out with or so many different cultures, especially our food from our diaspora,
Right.
which is really special. But that moment is like I realized they're the ones who really influence who I am now and the way I cook now, and the connection I have to my roots, and not just the Dominican side, but the African side.
Awesome. And I
So
remember last year we did an event where those roots were in Africa were unveiled.
yeah,
And I remember just how emotional you were to have that. That was a special moment for you.
it
So
really was, really was. I was bawling, and I couldn't hold it back. And I'm not much of a crier, but it's like I get emotional on my own, on the side. But
right.
to really showcase it with people watching, was like a really special moment for me. Like I just
Mhm.
let it out, and I was so connected, so overwhelmed with emotion of
Mhm.
feeling like, wow, this is so deep, and there's more to me and more to my people than I knew before growing up.
Right.
And I want to learn more. It was that feeling of like I want to learn more. I want to give more tribute to
Mhm.
my ancestors, to my culture, and really push where I'm at as a chef and go even more farther down.
Right.
Um, and I feel happier now the way I cook and the
Awesome.
connection I
Awesome.
have with
It's
my
you.
ingredients food. Yeah,
Exactly. It's you now. You're able to bring who you are fully to the table
exactly,
and to each plate.
exactly.
Dominican culture, how are men looked upon in terms of cooking and being chefs? How is that? How is that in Dominican culture?
Back in the days, it was definitely taboo. I think that's why I every time people ask me, who influenced you, I never said my mom and grandma before because I never got to really be in the kitchen with them.
Okay,
It was always about being out of the kitchen and watching and
gotcha.
observing. A few little questions here and there, but I couldn't really touch much unless it was something really labor intensive, like empanadas, stuff
Mhm.
like that. It's like Italian moms teaching their kids how to make pasta, but never teach them the secrets of the sauce
Okay,
and the bringing things together. Now it's definitely seen as something something really cool to be part of.
right.
Especially to be a man cooking is special and something people look out for in that culture and see us more as part of the society. you
Wow,
know Back in the days, a lot of chefs, amazing chefs in the past, who never got so much recognition, they were just stuck in the kitchen. Now
wow.
we get to be on TV and social media, in books, and really showcase ourselves and our story more. And those are the people I really give tribute to. Those people who paved the way for me,
Awesome.
um, to be doing what I'm now. Like we're seen kind of like, I always kind of feel bad saying it, but like rock stars in a way. When I go to other cities and people recognize me, it's a really cool feeling. But I never forget about the people who came from the past, who I learned from, who never got that same recognition,
Ab
and nobody knew who they were. It was just all about the restaurant and the owner. Now it's as chefs because we're the ones really pushing out the product that's bringing people in. Overall experience is part of it, but the food is really what keeps people coming back. You
Absolutely,
know,
absolutely. So break it down. Break Dominican cuisine 101 down for us.
it,
Spices, ingredients.
yeah, Dominican cuisine is amazing, and I'm still learning more and more. Because I new dishes, of course, of my culture and being Dominican, but there's so much more to it. The most special part for me is the African side. How vast that is, how rich it is. All the ingredients I grew up with it's all over West Africa. Remember when we did the African ancestry? I learned about Cameroon. That's where my ancestors come from.
Mhm.
And I always say everywhere I'm at now, like plantains is one of my favorite ingredients. Even on Top Chef, it came up. Even in other other things I've done is plantains, plantains, plantains.
Yes.
And I found out the plantains were exported majorly from Cameroon.
Nice.
So that's how it came into the Island Hispaniola, which used to be, which now is DR in Haiti.
Mhm.
And that's how we love this ingredient so much, and it's so prominent there.
Right.
It was shipped from the motherland. Also cassava, which we call yuca now sometimes. All these other beautiful ingredients, but Dominican cuisine, it's I always said it's like herbaceous, citrusy, really bold seasoning.
Okay.
We're one of the only islands in the Caribbean who doesn't eat spicy food, right?
Okay.
Like other cultures, us, Cuba, and Puerto Rico. Like Tabasco is too spicy for my mom. She never liked it so much. Being in California, I'm appreciative more, of course, because it's so prominent out here. But it's a food that really, like when I always say the African side, it's definitely the stews for me.
Okay.
There's a lot of braises, there's a lot of stews, in our cuisine, and that comes from there. Like it's just that labor of love. What soul foods really is about, right?
Right.
Putting as much love as you can into the food, being patient with it, letting it do its thing, reaching from point A to the point B, or even farther than that, because there's so many different steps to it. It's
Right.
not just put everything into a pot and let it do its
Absolutely.
thing. There's always little instances of adding more seasoning, the stirring aspect of it, just that connection with those ingredients, and it's slow and low, right? It takes a
Mhm.
while, but it comes out so delicious, comes
Yes.
out so soulful, and that to me is Dominican cuisine. My favorite dish still to this day is the pollo guisado, which is the braised chicken, Dominican
Yes.
braised chicken
I
with
can contest, as you know.
right,
Love
right.
it. Love
That's the dish
it.
that really I always ask my mom and grandma to cook for me when I go visit. It's that real connection to me, and knowing more about that dish, it came from the motherland, came from West Africa, um, and it's like I never knew that growing up, and now I do. It's like this like kind of full circle connection with
Absolutely.
these dishes I grew up with. The tostones, the fried plantains,
Mhm.
also that we love, the sweet plantains, maduros, which is all over the motherland, all over the Caribbean islands. This connection we have with this ingredient is so special, and the
Wow.
different dishes that come from it. Another thing that really prominent in Dominican cuisine is, and now I know it's so vast in other cultures, is braised oxtail.
Yes, yes. And you know
Like,
what? I always, I didn't really grow up eating oxtail, but I usually will eat them from Caribbean islands. And so,
gotcha.
so I definitely love your oxtail bowl, your braised chicken bowl. But that's really when I get that taste of having oxtail.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny because when I first opened alaMar, I opened alaMar in 2014. Again, I was coming from New York. I worked in San Francisco for a little bit, first time in California, and I had all these high ambitions, wanted to be more in the fine dining realm. So when
Hmm.
I opened alaMar, definitely I was going a little bit fancier with my food, telling a different story, telling the Mediterranean side, which was what I was following the most
Hmm.
as a chef, because that was kind of a paving a road to being, in that realm and
Right,
being seen as a chef, because our food is usually in the past especially considered as like low class or cheap
right,
food.
right.
Um, so my mindset was like, I have to do this style of food, this European centric food, in order to be seen and win these awards. But I one dish I did do when I first opened, and it was just a tribute to my mom, was the braised oxtail.
Okay.
And it's funny how I think about my first menu and all these crazy California ingredients and things I done in New York, and it's more prominent in Europe that I was doing, but I still had this one dish to represent me and something I grew up in. It
Hmm.
was just this like, okay, I'm gonna do this menu just to showcase the techniques that I've learned throughout the
Right.
past, where I come from in that chef realm, but I need to have one dish to connect with my family, to
Hmm.
connect with my culture. And it was the dish that really put me more on the map.
I was gonna say it
Um,
probably was the most popular dish.
it was, and it was just like because it is that connection, the love that it had. people, and I started learning that wow, oxtail didn't just come from Dominican cuisine or Dominican culture. It's so vast. It came from all over Africa, the other Caribbean islands, even Asian culture. They eat oxtail. It was that peasant food, right? That
Mhm.
we look back at history,
Yeah.
the dish that really kept a lot of us, nourished. We
Ah,
didn't have much to buy. We couldn't buy the filet mignons, the tenderloins, and other pieces. It was a piece of meat that was just thrown to the side
mhm.
for the poor people. But it's a dish that really represents us and has grown in all our cultures
Yeah.
throughout the generations. It's so many different recipes, but it's that one dish that you have to just let it do its thing, right? Let it
Absolutely.
cook slowly and get tender and get delicious. And there's so many variations you can do, but it's that dish that really kind of like my mom used to just do it for special occasions back in the days, like when
Mhm.
families gathering together. It was that dish that really kind of stole the show, basically.
Wow. Wow. Now, when was that moment that you knew you wanted to be, a professional chef, that you wanted to go in that trajectory?
When it was the funny thing is, it was always a hobby for me.
Okay.
Like growing up, there was this connection with cooking. Like I said, I would watch my mom and grandma cooking and from afar. It was always this curiosity for me. Like I want to do this, but I can't.
Okay.
Um, why do I want to do this? Like at first I wanted to be a movie producer. That was my dream growing up. And it's funny how I think about that realm and that art form and the art form I do now with cooking.
Okay.
There's a lot of similarities.
Mhm.
You're creating something, you're creating an experience, you're creating this like beautiful thing that keeps people happy and going and entertained.
Mhm.
Food is entertaining when it's good too.
Mhm.
Keeps you thinking, keeps you kind of memorizing about beautiful things in the past, nostalgic memories. But it's growing up. It was a hobby for me. Around the age of about 14, 15, I started get the curiosity started building more and more.
Okay.
Where I would start experimenting at home. My mom and dad kind of leave the house to go shopping, and little brother, I would just go into the kitchen right away and start putting things together. Like, oh,
Wow.
let me cook for myself and just kind of practice and experiment. And it was like this. It made me happy. It was this thing like, wow, this is cool. I have I feel really good doing this,
Right.
but I didn't know it was a passion yet. It was just like
Wow.
it was still a curiosity, still just a hobby to do. And then it started kind of building more and more and more throughout the years and throughout those months too. And I started cooking for my friends, be like, oh, try this that I made.
Mhm.
Tell me what you think. When we do our barbecues during the summer, I will be the one cooking. Um, and just like I don't know, it was just this thing attracted me to
Mm.
it. I
Mhm.
would love to just to hold tongs and spoons and start kind of plating things. And at that time, we didn't have much of like we had cooking shows, but not as much as we have now, right?
Right.
We have the Julia Childs and all those classic shows, some shows on the Food Network, but I would never like sit down and just watch TV to try to learn that. It was always about just watching my mom and grandma, and I really reflect now like that's the person who really influenced me. So I
Wow.
will watch them more than I will watch the TV shows or anything like that, and really learn their techniques and their seasoning and everything they're using, because it was fun for them, and that's what really attracted me to it. They weren't just like there was pressure, of course, because they're cooking for family and you want them to love what you're doing.
Mhm.
But it was this like fun atmosphere for them. They would listen to music while they're doing it, while they're cooking, or listen or watch a novela at the
Mm.
same time.
Gotta watch those.
Yeah, and it was like this like happy kind of free safe space that they were in connection with this food that they're cooking, and then still kind of feeling the world. It really made me happy watching that. And
Wow.
then about the age of 19 is when I really like said, okay, let me go for this. I
Mhm.
think we spoke about it before. It's like me and my friends coming out of a nightclub. It was the world famous Copacabana. It had a restaurant and it was a club with music and dancing live and bands. And it was this like whole crazy experience. And it was so new for us. It was the first time we come to a club. They were allowing under 21-year-olds to come in there. And we come out of the space at night and we're like, wow, that was so amazing. Like this is such an amazing place. We want to do the same. Like we have to do this. We can pop bottles every day and dance with girls. And it was always that mindset of like we want to have so much fun and this and that, but we want to do this together. But we're like, okay, it has to have a restaurant just like them. And everyone pointed at me and we're like, no, you're the best cook out of the group.
Mm.
You're gonna be the chef. But that moment, as crazy as it was, really, I took it really seriously, and I signed
Mhm.
up for culinary school the next day. I,
Wow.
I
Wow.
was like, damn, I always had this hobby for the and like this curiosity for cooking. It makes me happy, but I never saw it as I want to go to that in that career.
Mhm.
But that moment told me like, just let's just go for it. Let's see
Okay.
what happens.
Wow.